Daniil Kvyat burst onto the scene in 2014, becoming the youngest F1 driver to score points on debut, finishing the race in 9th place at just 19 years and 324 days old. Kvyat had been promoted to the Toro Rosso seat in 2014 due to the departure of Daniel Ricciardo to Red Bull, and was preferred to his Red Bull junior compatriot Carlos Sainz due to his brilliant performance in GP3, which saw him win the competition by a comfortable 30 points, as Sainz was nowhere to be seen, finishing 10th. Kvyat only managed to score points on 4 more occasions in 2014 and had some trouble mid-season when he didn't finish 4 out of 5 races. In his debut season he scored 8 points in total, but was unable to beat his more experienced teammate Jean-Eric Vergne, who scored 22 points in 2014. In October, Red Bull had announced that Vettel would be leaving the team at the end of the season to join Ferrari, which meant a seat opened up. I think many people thought Red Bull would promote Vergne, as he had 3 years experience in Formula 1 with their sister team, and when Ricciardo was his teammate he showed he could compete with him. But Red Bull saw Kvyat's potential and surprised the paddock by announcing him as their second driver for the 2015 season. The Red Bull 2015 car, however, was not up to scratch, as in the pre-season testing it looked like they had slipped from the second quickest car in 2014 to the 4th, and unfortunately things didn't get off to a great start, as Kvyat didn't even start the first race due to a gearbox problem during the formation lap. Both him and Ricciardo struggled in the first half of the season, as they didn't score their first podium until the 10th round in Hungary, when they scored a double podium. Kvyat coming in second and became at that time the second youngest driver to score a podium at 21 years and 91 days old. Ricciardo came home in third, as they finished behind a very content Vettel, who had just scored his second win with the Scuderia. Podiums became scarce after Hungary, with Ricciardo only claiming one more for the season in Singapore for the team. Kvyat then experienced 2 bad crashes, firstly in Japan having a bad accident in Q3, and then secondly in America when he crashed out on the penultimate corner. Maybe, just maybe, this was a sign of things to come for Kvyat. I think some people forgot that Kvyat actually beat Ricciardo in 2015, and it's not like it was a fluke due to DNFs, as both drivers had 3 each. A very impressive feat at the time, considering Ricciardo had absolutely obliterated Vettel in the season before. Did Red Bull potentially have 2 drivers that could contend for a championship in the future? Yes, but that second driver was not Kvyat, as he was dropped from the team, even after a podium at China, where he made some great overtaking moves that Vettel was a huge fan of.
Well, I was...
No, not well. You came like a torpedo.
Well, it's racing.
I'm racing, but you know, if I keep going the same line, we'll crash.
Don't keep going.
But the cherry on top of the cake was at his home race, where he hit Vettel not once, but twice in the space of 2 corners.
Execute Order 66.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm out! Crash! Somebody hit me in the rear! Turn 2!
So who was the second driver, you ask? Well, that was no other than an 18-year-old Max Verstappen, who was tearing it up at Toro Rosso, and Red Bull just needed one slip-up of a performance from Kvyat so they could have a somewhat viable reason in dropping him. And of course, it just had to be. In Max's first race with Red Bull, he won, becoming the youngest race winner ever, as Kvyat was left to wonder what could have been. Now, Kvyat's career in Formula 1 didn't just end there, but the rest of his 2016 season was one to forget, as he got blown away by Sainz in the Toro Rosso. He was kept on by Toro Rosso for the 2017 season, and he got absolutely decimated by Sainz once again. Sainz left to join Renault with 4 races remaining, but leading up to that, Sainz scored 48 points to Kvyat's 4. His form was so bad, he got replaced by Gasly, but then came back due to Sainz's exit, but then was replaced again, this time by Brendan Hartley. At this time, I think his mental health was deteriorating, and that decision to drop him from Red Bull in 2016 took its toll on the Russian. Red Bull then announced that he would leave Toro Rosso after the 2017 season and be replaced permanently this time by Brendan Hartley. So for 2018 he took up the role of third driver at Ferrari. But he made a comeback to join Toro Rosso once again for a third spell to replace the outgoing Pierre Gasly to partner rookie Alex Albon. And maybe having a year out proved a good thing for him. He looked like the Danny of 2015 as he was driving consistently and scoring points on a regular basis in 2019. With the decision from Red Bull to drop Gasly mid-season, who was going to take his seat? By this time, F1 was heading into the summer break after the Hungarian Grand Prix, and Kvyat had outscored his talented rookie teammate by 27 points to 16. This included an outstanding podium finish at a chaotic Hockenheim ring. Unfortunately for Danny, he wasn't promoted, and his younger rookie teammate got the opportunity at Red Bull. Gasly was then obviously demoted back to Toro Rosso, so both him and Kvyat could plot a plan to assassinate both Christian Horner and Helmut Marko. Gasly performed exceptionally well, and from Belgium onwards outperformed Kvyat, scoring 32 points, including his first podium at Brazil, compared to Kvyat's 10. In the end, Kvyat finished 13th with 37 points and was then re-signed for the 2020 season, again pairing Pierre Gasly. COVID then hit the world in March, and the first Grand Prix in Australia was cancelled. Racing then would continue in July, starting in Austria, and in 2020 Gasly was on another level to Kvyat, consistently outscoring the Russian race to race and then winning his first race at Monza. Now, don't get me wrong, Kvyat didn't perform badly, but Red Bull were in the position of having two reasonably good drivers in their sister team, but both had already had an opportunity at Red Bull. Ultimately, after Gasly's wonder year, Kvyat got the boot after 2020 and couldn't get a seat for 2021. Once more, he would take up a reserve driver role, but this time at Alpine. There would sadly not be a fourth stint at AlphaTauri for Kvyat in 2022, as he instead focused on other forms of motorsport like NASCAR, but he didn't get much luck with that. He did, however, find some success in the FIA Endurance Championship, where he came second. And now in 2023 he is set to make his Formula E debut with Neo 333 Racing in the Berlin Rookie Drivers Test, and may get a full drive in the sport in 2024. But I think that on its own shows that his chance to ever appear in Formula 1 again is very slim, as he even is struggling to get a seat in Formula E. It's a sad story, to be honest. Kvyat was very unlucky that he had Max on his ass at Red Bull, and it was also recently revealed on the Track Limits podcast that Kvyat himself said that he had a proposal to join Ferrari to replace Raikkonen. It is such a shame that a driver that was so good so young slipped through the cracks of Formula 1, and after being dropped from Red Bull in 2016, I think he knew that was it for his hopes of being a world champion with a top team. His mental health must have really taken a big blow, because there's no way he would have been beaten so badly by a guy he ran over just a few years before 2016 in GP3. Kvyat is still only 29, and it's a shame no other team took him on after 2020, even with his reputation to be collision prone. He was an F1 from such a young age. Of course he was going to be rash for a while. I think we never truly got to see Daniil Kvyat in his prime in Formula 1.